A sing-song of letters flooded into the operator's ears. Titanic's new wireless system had such a melodic tone that it could almost take away from the devastating message coming through the operator's headphones. Instantly, he perked up with alarm as the letters SOS and CQD rang into his ears. They were hours away, but Titanic's distress call had not fallen on deaf ears. Carpathia was coming. Welcome to Fast Facts Friday. My name is Eleanor. Just a quick disclaimer for our younger audience before we dive in. This story may be disturbing to some, so viewer discretion is advised. Okay everyone, let's get into it. CQD, transmitted in Morse code as dash dot dash dot dash dash dot dash dash dot dot, is one of the first distress signals adopted for radio use. Famously, the wireless operators aboard Titanic first sent out CQD distress signals before trying out the relatively new SOS signal. On January 7, 1904, the Marconi International Marine Communication Company, inventors of the Marconi wireless telegraph, issued Circular 57, which specified that, for the company's installations, beginning on February 1st of 1904, quote, "The call to be given by ships in distress or in any way requiring assistance shall be CQD." But how did we decide on the letters CQD? Well, landline and submarine telegraphers' telegraphs had adopted the convention of using the station code CQ to all stations along a telegraph line. CQ was used to make a general call communicating to anyone listening along the line. Then the operator might send the letter K, or go ahead, as an invitation for any licensed radio station listening on the line to respond. Its use on radio matched the existing use on Morse landline telegraphy and dates from the earliest wireless stations. It was widely used in point-to-point diplomatic and press services, maritime, aviation, and police services until those services eliminated Morse radio telegraphy. It is still widely used in amateur radio, which still has active use of Morse radio telegraphy. As the first wireless operators were taken from the already trained landline telegraphers, the current practices carried forward and CQ had then been adopted in maritime radio telegraphy as a general call to any ship or land station. The Marconi Company added a D, which stands for distress, to CQ in order to create a distress call that addresses anyone who hears it. Thus, CQD was understood by wireless operators to mean all stations distress. The first ship in history to issue a CQD distress signal was RMS Republic, sent by John R. Binns during her sinking in 1909, and we'll get more into her story this Sunday. Although used worldwide by Marconi operators, CQD was never adopted as an international standard, since it can be easily mistaken for a mere general call CQ when reception is poor. You'd never want your message of "please help me" to come across as "hey, how are you?" So this is really understandable as an international standard. CQD walked, so SOS could run. If you are enjoying this episode and want to hear more about ships, their careers, and the wrecks, check out our main show, Shipwreck Sunday, every Sunday night at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Alright, my friends, let's look at the transition into SOS. SOS is a Morse code distress signal spelled out ... dash 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 ... which is still widely used and understood to this day, and it was originally established for maritime use. Again, it was relatively new when RMS Titanic infamously sank, and not knowing if they'd ever get a chance to use it again, the wireless operators aboard Titanic used this signal as well as CQD. In formal notation, SOS is written with an overscore line to indicate that the Morse code equivalents for the individual letters of SOS are transmitted as an unbroken sequence with no spaces between the letters. IWB, VZE, 3B, and V7 form similar sequences, but traditionally SOS is the easiest to remember. When it was first agreed upon by the International Radio Telegraphic Convention in 1906, SOS didn't stand for anything and was just a distinctive Morse code sequence. Later, a backronym was created for it in popular usage, and SOS became associated with mnemonic phrases like "save our souls" and "save our ship." Due to its high-profile use in emergencies, the phrase SOS has entered general usage to formally indicate a crisis or the need for action. It's even referenced in pop culture, like the popular ABBA song SOS. SOS originated in German government maritime radio regulations adopted effective on April 1st, 1905. It became a worldwide standard when it was included in the service regulations of the First International Radio Telegraphic Convention signed on November 3rd, 1906, which became effective on July 1st, 1908. In modern terminology, SOS is a Morse procedural signal or prosign, used as a start-of-message mark for transmissions requesting assistance when loss of life or catastrophic loss of property is imminent. There are other prefixes used for not as serious emergencies, like mechanical breakdowns, requests for medical assistance, and a relayed distress signal originally sent by another station. SOS remained the maritime radio distress signal until 1999 when it was replaced by the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System. SOS, of course, is still recognized as a standard distress signal that may be used with any signaling method. It has been used as a visual distress signal consisting of a series of 3 short, 3 long, and 3 short flashes of light, such as from a survival mirror. In some cases, the individual letters SOS have been spelled out, for example, stamped in a snowbank or formed out of logs on a beach. SOS being readable upside down as well as right side up is an advantage for visual recognition. CQD, in contrast to SOS, is still transmitted as 3 distinct letters with a short gap between each, like regular text, making it take longer to transmit. CQD would slowly phase out, and SOS would take over, as it was easier and more recognizable. When we look at the history of wireless distress rescue, there are 9 documented rescues made by the use of wireless between 1899 and 1908. The earliest of these was a distress call from the East Goodwin lightship. However, since it was so early, there wasn't a standardized distress signal. The first U.S. ship to send a wireless distress call in 1905 simply sent help in both international and American Morse code. On December 7, 1903, Ludwig Arnson was a wireless operator aboard the liner SS Kroonland when the ship lost a propeller off the Irish coast. His call for aid brought help from a British cruiser. By February 1904, the Marconi Wireless Company required all of its operators to use CQD for a ship in distress or requiring urgent assistance. In the early morning of January 23, 1909, while sailing from New York City to Liverpool, RMS Republic collided with the Italian ocean liner SS Florida in fog off the Massachusetts island of Nantucket. This is when the first official CQD was sent out in history. Like I briefly mentioned earlier, on April 15, 1912, RMS Titanic radio operator Jack Phillips initially sent CQD, which was still commonly used by British ships. Harold Bride, the junior operator, half-jokingly said he might as well send out SOS, as it might be their last chance to use the new code. After this, Phillips alternated between the two. Tragically, Bride survived and Phillips did not, so Bride more than likely took his half-joke and survivor's guilt to the grave with him. Nowadays, ships call Mayday and use the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System. This system has continually been updated and has streamlined communications between ships and the shore, and this haste in messaging can mean the difference between life and death. However, we wouldn't have this incredible system without starting with CQD and SOS. The White Star liner sailed through the fog, oblivious to an Italian ocean liner also traveling in the mist. It was to be like any other return voyage, with smooth sailing and happy passengers aboard. Early in the morning, she let out a hoot of her whistle, signaling her position in the fog. Alarmingly, they heard another whistle, and the crew jumped into action, but it would be too late. This Sunday, we get into the story of the millionaire's shipwreck, RMS Republic.